I wouldn't go in so early with this judgment. It might all end horribly, Ashida. What would you like to say?
That's okay. I want to say, what if Meghan was mixed race but British? Because it doesn't matter what the conversation or the dialogue is surrounding Meghan Markle's marriage with Prince Harry. I think it boils down to race, and we keep forgetting that. We keep pretending that is not a factor.
I don't.
And it is.
I don't only the racists pretend it isn't a factor, Ashida. I mean, there's a lot of them about, more than perhaps we realised a few years ago, but no one else is pretending that race isn't a fact. We're absolutely clear about it.
Well, it doesn't seem to be. Well, you are, and maybe a few others, because
and they are as well. They're not under any illusions about why this has happened.
Because like last night, for example, I spent some time on YouTube just looking at all the videos where Meghan Markle was being dragged for either how she was dressed, from either how she appeared, and I commented. I make it my duty to comment, to let them know. Listen, Meghan Markle is married to Prince Harry, and so as he mourns the passing of his beloved grandmother, Her Majesty the Queen, it is her obligation or duty, that is Meghan Markle, to stand by his side.
Of course it is.
So if she walks with him and holds his hand or just tap his shoulder or his back, what could be so wrong? What's the crime?
We're self-indulgent, Ashida. Self-indulgent.
Oh, my God.
I think that's a really interesting phrase, and I think we should probably just unpack it ever so slightly. Self-indulgent, it means that they're doing something that they want to do that brings them pleasure.
Yeah.
And the idea that they shouldn't do that comes from, I think, quite a dark place. It comes from a place that can only really exist inside people who have very little pleasure in their lives, who have...
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, because it's such a fascinating phrase to use, self-indulgent. What do you mean self-indulgent? Well, they're doing something for their own mental health. They're doing something for their own happiness. They're looking after each other. They're looking after themselves. No one looks after me. No one lets me do things that I enjoy. No one makes me feel loved and protected and warm. That I think, not Claire, I'm sure. She's just using a phrase that she ran across on social media. But I think that's the phrase I'm reading, self-indulgent, and that's what makes them so cross. They're loving and they're happy. They should be stiff upper lip. They should be masking their real misery. They should be unhappy, and I'm not. It's awful that they seem so in love.
But can you imagine if they did show unhappiness? Can you imagine what the royal experts would say
about them?
They're so unhappy and they're so bitter and they shouldn't be together. Can you imagine?
I can.
So they're showing love and it's a problem.
Do you know what? You're a genius. The frisson. That clearly relations between the pair are on a knife edge as Harry and Meghan stand yards apart at the in Westminster. You're absolutely the same people. My God, you're good. You should do my holiday cover.
Oh,
there it is.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to talk to you, James.
Well, it's lovely to talk to you as well. Your early optimism was fully justified. You tell me, look me in the eye and tell me that if they had walked like stony-faced and absolutely barely acknowledging each other's presence, exactly the same people wouldn't be saying, oh, looks like the magic is over, looks like the spell is broken, looks like he's seen through her. Funny that, isn't it? And absolutely, of course it's racist. So much energy expended in this country listening to racists claim that they're not being racist. I'm not being racist. I hate it because, reasons, self-indulgence, reasons. Holding hands, nothing to do with race. She's holding hands. Yeah, so are they. Yeah, but 10 minutes previously, zing. 11:47. 10 minutes to 12. And listen, if you are reachable on this, if you are amenable to having wool pulled from your eyes rather than pulled over your eyes, then just ask yourself this. If Prince William had held his wife's hand yesterday in Westminster Hall, what do you think the media would have done? Or what do you think social media would have done? What do you think people attacking Harry and Meghan would have done if William had done it? Do you think anyone would be calling them self-indulgent or inappropriate? Or claiming that 30 seconds before would have been fine and 30 seconds after would have been fine, but at that precise moment? You know they wouldn't. Somewhere inside, even if you currently are on the other side of the argument from me on this one, and I, for what it's worth, wish it wasn't an argument. It's so obviously bogus. But if you are still subscribing to that school of thought, what would you be doing if it was William and Kate? Well, they never would have done, so it's a pointless question. Is that where you're going to go? Probably. I don't know, because actually answering the question is impossible for you. Because then I would have to say, well, then why do you have such a different attitude to two women when they behave in exactly the same way? Why is Meghan Markle's wedding bouquet a potential poison for her bridesmaids when Kate Middleton's is a beautiful reflection of royal tradition, a reference to the same flower? What is it about these two women that makes you treat them so differently when they behave in exactly the same way? Star signs, maybe? Yeah, maybe one's a Gemini and one's a Capricorn. That'll be it. Star signs, isn't it? Matthew's in Leicester. Matthew, what would you like to say?
I'm a Gemini as well, so I hope you're not going to be horrible to me.
That's spooky. How about that? I know that I could tell that immediately. I could tell that, actually.
Well, I suppose, actually, controversy creates cash is quite simply how it is. I think the media have always had a strong interest in Harry. They used to be his biggest supporter. He donned the Nazi uniform, and it was good old cheeky Harry.
Well, no, he got a kicking for that. To be fair, he did get a bit of a kicking for that. But you're right. It was swiftly glossed over, and it was a fancy dress party. It wasn't a sort of I don't know, a political statement. But I thought it was inappropriate. I don't think there's ever any real excuse for wearing a Nazi uniform. But you're right. Yes.
The point is, it was our boy, good old Harry. The press decided with Meghan, and I strongly suspect you're right, that actually there was a few racist old crones that probably targeted her and realised that they were selling a lot of newspapers, and it's just snowballed from there. But
it's not just newspapers. 5 YouTube accounts dedicated to harassing Meghan Markle raked in a combined $42,000 per month, according to a new investigation that's been done by a media organisation called Jezebel. $42,000 a month. I'm the king of the viral clips, Matthew. I don't get anywhere near that kind of cash.
This is the thing. It's creating a huge amount of cash. But of course, the Sussexes aren't helping themselves either. So they are going on to Oprah. They are saying things that have later been proved to be untrue. Only recently, she mentioned a conversation with a cast of Lion King that didn't happen.
With the Nelson Mandela comparison. But how I mean, where do you go to put your side of the story, if not to someone you think you can trust? I don't think that you can particularly attack them for that, and a self-aggrandizing apparent fib. In the great scheme of things, Prince Charles was screaming at a pen 2 days ago. Where's that?
I think we can.
Where's all the abuse for that?
I think we can forgive the king for screaming at a pen when he's signing something for probably the first time as a king.
Come on, mate, listen to yourself. We can forgive the king for screaming at a pen.
With what he's going through at the moment, yeah, I genuinely
okay, then you can forgive
can.
Meghan Markle for everything she ever does because of what she's gone through since she met Prince Harry.
I don't think there is anything to forgive. I don't necessarily think that she has done anything wrong other than fall in love with somebody, and the establishment and the press have decided that it's a non-starter. I hope that is not a reflection of broader society, because I think we're much better than that.
That's the key question, isn't it? That was my reservation number 2 for having this conversation, is that you don't know how many of them walk among us. I mean, I mentioned the monetization of the YouTube accounts dedicated to hating her. The number of Twitter accounts, similar investigations have found that it all begins with 70 or 80 accounts that are then magnified and repeated and retweeted endlessly by the kind of people who've popped up in my inbox this morning, but you don't know how much of the population buys into this. In the same way that the Daily Mail is horribly wrong about lots and lots of things now, but horribly right for their dwindling number of readers. So what the people you're describing, the ones handing over the cash, the customers, as it were, how many of them, in percentage terms, represent the broader population? We've got no real way of knowing, have we? No way at all.
I wonder, actually, if that is also part of the issue. Because Meghan is so very much like us, people don't necessarily like that as well. Maybe she is the most human of all of them, which essentially makes her the most different.
We don't want them human, do we? Because that makes us feel silly for bending the knee and sleeping outside in the poor man at his gate. They can't be human. We don't want them to be human. This is going to be Charles's problem moving forward. The camouflage of mystique that the Queen managed to carry throughout her life, the never letting the light in. Charles, I mean, to his credit as a human being, finds it hard to mask his feelings, whether he's talking about the environment or shouting at a pen. But the punters, the plebs, we don't really want them human, because if they're human, we'd start wondering why we can't have a piece of the action. Why can't I live in an enormous castle, despite not having very good O-level results?
No, I think you're wrong with that.
Do you?
I think you're wrong. Because actually, if you do look at generations and generations, if you were to compare the Queen to, say, her grandfather,
yes,
she was far more open. She
Tell me an
was
opinion she
much
had.
more transparent. An opinion that the Queen had that the previous king may not or may
No, any opinion at all. Any opinion at all that the Queen held.
We know that she loved a racehorse.
Do you know, I nearly said you're not allowed to tell me that she liked horses. That is not an opinion. That's an opinion about something that you could disagree on.
She was a keen advocate of the United Kingdom remaining as one.
Well,
and Scotland not leaving.
So monarch wants country she rules over to be as big as possible.
I wouldn't look at it that way, but I wouldn't have looked at it that way because she would have remained the Queen.
Yeah, I know. And she let it be known, didn't she, reportedly, that she leant one way rather than the other on that. But if I said to you, yeah, and you're right, maybe she could have stayed on as Queen of Scotland. That is the closest she ever came. I'm fairly sure her dad felt the same, though, aren't you, Matthew?
I suspect so. Bizarrely, in a strange twist of fate,
yes,
it may be that Meghan might actually be part of the key to the success of the future of the monarchy.
Go on.
Because actually, if you do look, you've got Victoria, who completely and utterly disappeared from public life and there was no issues. It's gradually become more and more open and more accessible. The sparkle hasn't worn off. It's just changed.
The Markle sparkle. The Markle sparkle. That's what could save the monarchy.
In order for Charles to succeed, maybe he does need to look at doing it. He can't follow his mother. He's going to have to do something different. So maybe, and we've already seen this on his very first speech. He allowed cameras in to film behind the scenes. He's allowing cameras into areas where they ordinarily
for now he
allowed.
is. If he keeps shouting at pens, I think those cameras are going to be kicked out of the room fairly quickly. I really do, and that's a semi-important point to make in that the petulance on display there, albeit that he's been under enormous pressure over the last week, is something you never would have witnessed. I don't think I ever saw the Queen express irritation, and that's what I meant by the mystique, the camouflage of mystique, her fondness, her well-established fondness for horses of all kinds, actually, Matthew, not just racehorses. Claire Balding was talking about it the other day, and apparently she'd remember everything about. So even if you had a pony 20 years ago and she'd come across it, she'd say, "Have you still got that pony?" Because whatever, and she'd know the name, like Blue Danube or something. Do not ever ask me why I just came up with a Blue Danube as the name for a fictional pony, a theoretical pony. I will never know. Someone, I've lost the tweet. I do apologise. Who's just joined the queue? Here it is, Steve. I've just joined the queue at Butler's Wharf, James, and I'm really hoping for Mystery Hour. Steve, it's your lucky day.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation. Mystery Hour with James O'Brien.
3 minutes after 12, and it's back. Your weekly opportunity to achieve the sort of satisfaction not ordinarily available anywhere on your radio dial. If you're not familiar with this feature, and if you're discovering LBC as a consequence of our superlative royal coverage, then I should tell you up front, this is rather different from what you have experienced thus far. It's both silly and serious. It is amusing, but also enlightening. And if it goes well, it should pretty much push all of your buttons intellectually and emotionally speaking. How can I speak so confidently of it? Well, it's been around for years. It's been pushing all available buttons for the longest time, and so successful and popular has it proved that it has even spawned... How many radio features, Keith, have spawned actual board games? Can you think of any others? Surely Steve Wright back in the day must have got a board game out of some of the fantastic features that he used to do. Can you think of any others? R-Tune, Simon Baker? Simon, if you're listening, did you ever get a board game based on R-Tune? What else would it... Can anyone think of a board game? Moyles is probably trying to think one up as we speak. So competitive, that boy, honestly. So there is a genuine board game, and I mention that because, I can flog you a box. If you head over to mysteryhour.co.uk, you can buy one. You'll even get change out of 20 quid. And B, because there is indeed a game up as a prize every week now on Mystery Hour. My favourite contribution to Mystery Hour wins a Mystery Hour board game. Fun for all the family. And that's it. I mean, that's all you have to do. Just delight me. When I should do the grown-up bit as well, shouldn't I? Terms and conditions. The full terms and conditions are available at lbc.co.uk. Also at lbc.co.uk is our sort of running, our live... What's the word I want? Our live... What is it? Is it a blog? It's not a blog. Live what? What is it? The thing about the queue. Queue watch. Like the live queue count. Queue. The Elizabeth line, but the live... telling you how long it is, where it is. Anyway, it's all live, and it's also at lbc.co.uk. Has Popmaster had a board game off the back of it? Has it? Probably, you'd think so, wouldn't you? It's the second most popular radio feature in history. 5 minutes after 12 is the time. Shall we start without any further ado? There it is. It's strangely hypnotic watching the queue. I've got it up on the screen in the studio now. Even more hypnotic is watching the camera in Westminster Hall itself. It is strangely soothing. It is serene, and it is. I mean, again, it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense. My catchphrase of the week. Let's crack on. Mystery Hour, which only ever makes sense, except when it doesn't. Jamie's in Chippenham. Jamie, question or answer?
James, thank you. Yeah, it's a question.
Carry on.
Green screens in films, the first use of them was in 1903.
Hang on a minute, this is Mystery Hour, not Ring Me Up and Tell Me Things Hour.
The question's coming.
Go on.
The first use of them was in 1903.
Was it?
Yeah, in a film called, I believe it was the Great Train Robbery.
Wow.
But why are they green? Why aren't they blue or red or purple? Why are they green?
You know the first bit of the answer, don't you? Which must be... because it works better than any other colour does for what green screens do, but you want to know why.
Yeah, exactly
Somewhere,
right.
So it'd be somewhere it is on the spectrum, won't it? Something to do with where it is on this. I like that question. I'm just thinking. Sometimes I burble like this, Jamie, because I think we may have had it before, and I may be able to drag the answer from my befuddled, cobweb-ridden memory banks, but it's not going to happen. The green screen.
Yeah.
All right, you're on.
The babbling, but yes, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. I shall look forward to finding out the answer to that, or possibly rediscovering the answer to that. 12:07 is the time. If you want to join in, remember, it's not just questions that I'm looking for, it's also answers. So if you know the answer to one of these questions, then ring in immediately, and it gives you a chance, of course, to win that Mystery Hour board game. Gavin is in Leeds. Gavin, question or answer?
Question.
Carry on.
So when I was a kid,
Yeah.
local town hall, they always had a flea market.
They did.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you always had that joke about selling fleas.
Yeah.
I was in Crete the other week,
Oh, yeah.
and I saw a sign for flea market. What is a flea market? Where's the word flea come from?
I think I know this.
Oh, go on.
And I don't know whether it is definitive or not, but I think this is the received wisdom. It's born of the idea that if you're buying furniture that's very old,
Yeah.
then it's likely to have fleas in it. I think.
Yeah, but they sell jewellery and all
No, well,
sorts,
yeah,
don't they?
but I mean, they sell. Well, let me think of an example. They don't just sell soup at supermarkets, do they, Gavin? And yeah, that's it. And so the flea market began as sort of house clearances almost.
Well, that wouldn't sell many goods, would it, if it were known as a flea market?
Well, it would
Knowing you were
actually.
gonna
Back
buy-
in the day, everyone had fleas. They were commonplace. If it wasn't for fleas, then the bubonic plague, actually, I think that's been redrawn that
You
little
still
bit.
won't want to go out and buy it, would you?
Well, I don't know that this is a subject for
good
debate.
advertising slogan.
I'm not here to defend the choice of name for a flea market. I'm merely here to explain it to you, Gavin. Wasn't my idea,
And did they
mate.
have
Don't
flies in
shoot the
Crete as
messenger.
well?
What?
Did they have flies in Crete as well? Fleas in Crete?
Yeah, of course they do. They've got fleas everywhere. They get everywhere. Anywhere there's mammals, there's fleas. I think that's the answer, but I don't know. I sense you're not going to take it.
No.
Well, more fool you then. Marche aux puces, the French. Marche aux puces. Someone's just texted me. Marche aux puces is the French for flea market. And it is. I know I'm right, but I'm not going to be arrogant and demand a round of applause if you're not prepared to admit that I clearly and obviously deserve one.
Well, it's my first time, so...
All right, I'll leave it on the
as
board.
well,
All right, then. Nice one. Cheers, Gavin. Marche aux puces. Thank you. Chris is in Glasgow. Chris, question or answer?
It's a question, James.
Carry on.
This might sound a bit of a weird one because the lady I was explaining it to there, I think she was thinking I took the mick.
That's no
But
lady,
what it
that's
is-
my producer. Carry on.
What it is, the car remote, for like unlocking your car.
Yes.
If you go, or I've found that, say for example, I'm 20 metres away from the car,
Yes.
and it doesn't unlock the car because the distance is too far away.
Yes.
If I place it to my temple and press the button, it works. And it'll work up to, say, another 10 metres after that. So my question is, how does that happen, or why does that happen?
Well, before we get to your question, I think we're going to get to mine first. How did you discover this?
Do you know, I don't honestly remember. But the reason I tried
Are you in the
military?
Are you in the military?
I was years ago.
Do you salute sometimes by accident and also press the button on your key fob at the same time?
Not quite. No.
Could have been that. Could have been that.
The reason I discovered it was I live in a flat, and we're like on the street. The cars park out the front, and it was one of those days that I'd forgotten. I didn't know if I'd locked the car, and it wouldn't work from looking out the window. But then something was in my mind. I can't remember if I heard it somewhere or whatever. I tried it, and it worked. And then I tried it. I was just mucking about with the kids in the car park, and sort of saying, "Look, here's some power of your mind," kind of thing.
I like it. I think I know the answer. I think it's
if it's to do with because you're raising the fob to maybe a better line of sight.
No, it's not that.
No,
because you've tested that, haven't you, by putting it to your temple when you've squatted down on the pavement.
Well, I was waving the fob about. It wouldn't work if you sort of like hold it up in there, but again, put it to your temple.
It's because your skull is working like a bell. So the radio waves or whatever it is that are coming out of the thing are expanded. I mean, it's like a bell. It's amplifier. So your skull becomes an amplifier.
Well, I thought along that lines, but I thought that would be a bit weird.
What did you think it was? Magic?
Well, I don't know. That's why I phoned.
Yeah, but I mean, how could you think that the Sherlock Holmes answer would be a bit weird? Of course, it's going to be that. Your skull is a bell. It's albeit that it's got a brain in it. It's got echoing type capacities.
But then, if I put it to my
some skulls more than others,
chest, it wouldn't work on my chest or my arm. It only worked on.
But your chest and your arm on domes, bell-shaped domes, are they?
No.
I'm having this one. I should have got the last one. I think it was on Top Gear once. If you're asking me how I know it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Am I to take your word on it then?
No, it's not my word. It's Jeremy Clarkson's.
Well, I can't doubt Jeremy.
No, if you do, he'll punch you. Round of applause for me. Do I need an allegedly there? I don't know. Let's find out. 12:12 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Paul's in Grays. Paul, question or answer?
Morning, James. It's a question. It's Paul, the ice cream man from Grays. How are you?
Hello, Paul. Did you? No, you didn't. Hang on. Go on. What? It's your birthday. It's your birthday today.
How did you know that?
Because let me guess your star sign.
You're looking it up.
Yeah. What star sign is today? Can someone tell me what star sign it is for today, please?
Well,
are you Virgo, Paul? Are you Virgo, Paul?
I am a Virgo.
Whoa! And there's a little sound effect there. You did that, not me. What was that in the background?
It was Keith.
It was Keith. Oh, that's the highest praise. Anyway, where were we?
I'm not saying I should win the ball game
because
it's my birthday, but it's a great question. Now look at look at the events going in London.
Yeah.
Of the queue. What is the longest ever queue? Where was it, and what was it for?
Oh, that's a good question, mate.
Is it winning a board game question?
So it's 12:13. It's early doors. You might have edged into a lead there, but it is early doors. I know it's your birthday, but I can't be swayed by such considerations, can I? Otherwise,
Why not?
Well, because someone else rings in and it's their birthday. What am I going to do? Chop it in half like King Solomon?
I was there first.
It's not. It doesn't matter, does it? What you do?
By the way, I can't get them lemon and lime lollies anywhere.
Can you not?
No, I know you said Enzo had some, but I can't get them.
Do you know Enzo? Have you met him? No, you're at the other end of town, aren't you?
No, I'm the other end of town. No.
He's got special Italian suppliers as Enzo. You need to talk to. Have you? Well, the lemon. I'll get the name of it for you. All right. I'll get the exact name of it for you, and then I'll tell you what he also does, Paul.
What's that?
He does a pistachio lolly.
Yeah, I'll do that. Pistachio lolly?
Yeah.
No, pistachio ice cream.
No, I know about the pistachio ice cream. I wouldn't be making a fuss about pistachio ice cream. Pistachio ice cream is as old as the hills, but he does a pistachio lolly that's got almost like a... It's got almost an oily finish to it. It's so delicious. It coats your mouth,
like a pistachio flavour.
Yeah, it's not just the pistachio flavour. There's a clue about that on the packet. It's the consistency of it, like a creaminess. I'll get you the name of that as well, Paul. Seriously.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah, you're welcome. Happy birthday. It's 12:15.
Mystery Hour on LBC with James O'Brien.
12:17 is the time. What is the longest queue ever? Do we know? What is the origin of the phrase flea market? I think I know that, but Gavin wouldn't accept my answer. And why are green screens green? Jamie wants to know, and so now do I. Pete's in Brentwood. Pete, question or answer?
I have an answer for you, James.
Carry on, Pete.
It's the why are green screens green?
Indeed.
It is simply because in human skin there is very little green pigment. It's also the reason why they use blue, because there's very little blue in human skin.
Do they use blue screens as well, do they? For
They do, yeah. So most of the time they use blue and green screens. But you can it's called Chroma key. Most people just call it green screening. But it's called Chroma key, and you can use any colour.
But green works best because it's usually humans Oh, so I bet they didn't use a green screen for the special effects in Hulk.
No, exactly. So if on Star Wars there was someone painted green to be an alien, they'd use blue, or if they were painted green and blue, they could have used red.
Qualifications?
Any colour they want. I made a TV series for kids, which is on CITV, called Mini Movies.
Fantastic.
And one of the elements we had was all about green screen.
This is when you do movie trailers and you put real people in them, don't you?
Yeah, that's it.
That's fantastic. I've seen that.
Oh,
is it still on?
Much.
Is it?
It's still on. It's repeated Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on CITV.
Sensational stuff. And is it your brainchild? Or, I mean,
it is indeed my brainchild. Me and my friend Adam, we made it with much love and care.
Get you. That's fantastic. And I mean, straight from the horse's mouth. Really, can't argue that. You use them. You use green screens, or indeed blue screens, and on occasion the odd red screen as well.
Exactly.
What colour screen would you use for a UKIP conference?
Oh,
no, don't answer that. I don't want to get you into trouble. The last thing we want is Mini Movies getting boycotted by people. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Pete. 19 minutes after 12 is the time. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Rebecca is in Merstham, is it? Merstham in Surrey, Rebecca?
That's absolutely correct.
Splendid.
Yes, it is.
What would you like to say?
Hang
on a minute. It's mystery hour. I got my catchphrase wrong. Question or answer?
Question.
Carry on.
We have just sadly left an Elizabethan era.
We have.
So what era are we going into now?
I can tell you this, because it's the sort of thing I've swatted up on as a precursor to presenting hour upon hour of royal-related coverage since late last week, and the answer is Carolingian.
Oh, okay. Great to know.
Did you have an idea what it might be, or is that?
I had absolutely no idea at all. I was curious, so I just thought the best place to call was Mystery Hour.
Well, there you go, and it gets me a round of applause. I mean, Carolingian was suggested in some circles, but I think Carolingian refers to a whole dynasty. It's one of the Byzantine, sort of Charlemagne. It's not just one king. So Carolean is definitely what's happening, because I've checked. But also, interestingly, because I know, Rebecca, like most listeners to this programme, you're always fascinated by my Kidderminster-related little nuggets.
Definitely.
Yes. So King Charles High School in Kidderminster, obviously not named after this King Charles, but named after one of the others. There's still I think it's a rugby team or a cricket team in Kiddy that was founded by their old boys, and that is the old Carolians. You see.
Oh, wow. Good to know.
It is good to know. And do you want to know something really weird that we only found out
Definitely.
You know Tom Watson, the former deputy leader of the Labour Party?
Not personally, no.
No, but you know of Tom Watson, the former deputy leader.
I've heard of him, yes.
I know Tom, because I didn't know him at the time, but we did actually grow up on the same street in Kidderminster on Hurcott Road. And he went to King Charles High School. I knew that about him. So I read something in the paper a couple of weeks ago, and the first thing I did was send him a message saying, "Did you know about this?" And he said, "No, I had no idea." Guess what that little nugget of information was, Rebecca?
Tell me, go on.
Liz Truss's father was a maths teacher at King Charles High School in Kidderminster for a couple of years in the mid-70s.
Well, there you go.
Isn't that incredible?
I got more answers than I needed.
But you got answers to questions you didn't even know existed. Never mind have the vaguest interest in hearing. I'll take the round of applause now. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
No, and it's a lovely question. A lot of people will be glad of the knowledge that we are now in a Carolingian period. Andy is in Brighton. Andy, question or answer?
Oh, hello, James. I've got a question for you. Thanks for having me on, by the way. Really big fan. You're
Always
a great guy.
Thank you, Andy. It's good to hear from you. What would you like to say?
Well, my question I've had this for ages, but I've learned something recently that's added even more complexity to it. I've learned that the English language, back in a long time ago, Old English used to, much like German, have 3 genders for nouns, masculine, feminine, and neuter. We, as human beings, we're quite lazy, and we always, especially with language and how it evolves, we always cut corners and things just, the language it evolves, doesn't it, naturally over time. My question is, why are there still so many, especially European languages, that engender their nouns? Why are the Germans and the Spanish and the French still... Why do they still sex their vegetables? That's what I'd like to know.
How did we do it? How would it have worked in Old English?
It was... Well, do you know, I've lost quite a lot of the information that I've learned because I have difficulty retaining this stuff, but it has naturally just ebbed away with the evolution of English.
But I don't see how it could have done. I'm not doubting you. I don't understand.
Well,
because
it's as different as English today. Modern English is quite different to Old English, and it was in Old English that we engendered the noun.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of Old English. I'm thinking a bit of Chaucer. Is that old enough?
Yeah, well, that was Middle English. Chaucer was Middle English, wasn't it? So it's quite.
So what? Beowulf? Then are we going back to Beowulf?
Possibly Beowulf. Yeah. See, this is where I get. I'm hazy on that stuff, but I have learned that we do.
So an apple.
I'm curious about is how has it endured?
But how was it conveyed? So how would we know whether an apple was masculine or feminine?
Well, that's the question I've got about the French and the Dutch.
But that's because of the definite article. It's le and lag. You know whether it's masculine or feminine. I don't know.
How did it become? Why is a table of female? I don't know.
Well, we still gender. Julie points out we sex ships. There's a phrase I never thought I'd say on the radio.
We do, don't we? Though?
Yeah, we do. We do that, don't we?
Why has it endured? Why through the general laziness?
What's the actual question here, Andy? For God's sake!
So why haven't those habits in other languages fallen by the wayside?
I'm not convinced that they've fallen by the wayside in our language because we haven't got any examples of a gendered, a sexed word in Old English.
No, because we just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, but what did it look like when we did?
Just the or the or an.
But
it's not.
What did it look like when we did do it?
Oh, well, so there was. Oh God, I'd have to look up the YouTube video that I saw.
You should have done that before you came on the radio. You should have done that before you came on the radio.
I still think it's a good question.
Well, it is a good question. If it is actually a good question, if it's not a good question, it's not a good question, is it?
Is it a male question?
I don't know. I don't know. What sexist question? We'll find out. If there's an answer, I'll find it. All right then. Thank you.
Bless you, James.
Bless you
take
too.
care.
And you. Cheers. 03456060973. Why do we not have gendered nouns in English, or why do the French and the Germans still have gendered nouns? Do you know what? I'm getting a bit very chilled in my old age, so I'm going to let variations of that go. If you think you can answer any of the questions that popped up during the course of Andy's conversation, you are welcome. Longest queue in history, origin of a flea market, and some suggestions that Pete might have deserved the Ray Liotta for the green screen. I have to disagree. I know he works with green screens, but Ray Liotta, he'd have to have invented it, and Jamie told us that it was around in 1905, and he didn't sound that old. Martin's in Sidcup. Martin, question or answer?
Good afternoon, James. It's a question.
Carry on.
Where does the saying come that if you're going out for a slap-up meal?
Now, I've got two problems here. The first is that I just said I was really chill about the rules these days, and I'm about to contradict myself. And the second is the actual problem, which is not directed at you, Martin. This is directed at my colleagues, because we have quite a strong rule on Mystery Hour that we only take one origin of phrase question every week. Otherwise, for reasons I have never understood, but I do kind of understand, otherwise we get inundated with origin of phrase questions. That's just people think, as soon as you say that, where does slap-up meal come from? Someone else will think, where does humdinger come from? Or where does all the trimmings come from? Do you see what I mean? So we've already got flea market, And now we've also got
Right,
slap-up
yeah.
meal with all the trimmings. I know this as well. Don't look at me like that, Keith. I know this one. Right? It's not originally what you think it is. A slap-up feed with all the trimmings. I don't know the origin of that. I think that is an evolution from a slap-bang meal.
Right.
And a slap-bang meal was a meal where you slap the money back down on the table. So there's no messing about, there's no faffing around, there's no fancy malarkey. It's just good old-fashioned meat and 2 veg, straight down your gullet, and then slap-bang the money, or slap-bang meal, cash on delivery, food down your, like, you know, buying it in the street or buying it in a tavern without having to wait for ages.
So it's got nothing to do with women getting their slap on to go out for a meal, then?
Absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with that. I mean, I imagine that the phrase slap as a synonym for makeup came around long after Dickens used slap bang in a book to mean cheap, you know, not fancy.
Nowadays, it's like if you're going out for a fancy meal, it's a slap up.
I know it is. So that might be grounds to leave your question on the board.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, hang on, but I don't think you'll get an answer to that. Because the origin of slap up is slap bang. So unless someone can talk us through precisely the point at which slap bang, meaning a relatively cheap meal, became slap up, meaning a slap up feed with all the trimmings, then you won't get your question will never be answered at all. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do, Martin? What are you going to do? Are you going to take it? Are you going to take it, or are you going to gamble?
I'm going to gamble.
Whoa! That's only because the audience were all shouting gamble, isn't it? I know how this works.
Exactly. I can hear them now shouting gamble, gamble.
Gamble, gamble. All right, you're on. We shall try and find out for you. Slap up feed. What's the origin of the phrase slap up feed with all the trimmings? Or just slap up meal, not slap bang, mind. Gendered nouns, longest queue, and flea market. It's a good one, this. A nice mixture. For the benefit of my colleagues, rather than you listening, no more questions about origins of phrases, please. Not least because Wayne in Basildon went out, bought Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable, ate it, and then managed to regurgitate answers to all questions involving origins of phrases for the best part of 3 or 4 years. It's coming up to 12:30. You're listening to James O'Brien on LBC. Amelia Cox is here now with your headlines.
Mystery Hour with James O'Brien. This is LBC.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Well, hang on. How do you know? I haven't told you yet. Blonde is an example of what Andy was talking about. Blonde is a gendered word in English. Blonde with an E for women's hair and blonde with no E. In other blonde is the masculine and blonde with an E is the feminine. So he's right. We did used to have gendered nouns. That's not even a noun, is it? That's an adjective. Anyway, gendered words. And another one is brunette and brunette. Brunette, you can use brunette with one T, just BRUNET as an adjective. You don't anymore, but you could if you wanted to. There you go. Crikey. So that question assumes a new sense of urgency. Why don't we have gendered nouns anymore? Or, if you prefer, why do the French and the Germans still have gendered nouns? Origin of the phrase slap up feed. Origin of the phrase flea market. Yeah, I know. Sorry about that. The world's longest queue. The longest queue ever in history, as far as we know. Where was it? What was it? How long was it? Nick's in Nunhead. Nick, question or answer?
Oh, hello, James.
Hello,
yeah, love the show, by the way.
Thank
Great
you,
fan
mate.
of Mystery Hour.
Oh, bless you.
Right, so I'm quite nervous. But my question is about the ring finger
Oh, yes.
on your hand, right? Because like my eldest son and my wife can easily fold their fist up and stick that finger up, right?
Well, all the way up?
All the way up, right? But me and my youngest son, we can't, like I'm doing it now as I'm talking to you. It's taking me a few seconds. I have to really concentrate.
I can't get it up.
So why is it? Very funny.
It's not that sort of programme, Nick. You need to. We don't do that sort of thing anymore on LBC. Not since Anna Rayburn's day.
Oh no! All right, so why is that? I mean, why is it? I mean, I know we don't use that finger that often, but you know, they manage to be able to do it straight away.
Do you want to know something weird? I can do it with my right hand, but not with my left hand.
Oh really? No, I struggle with both, but more so with my left because I'm right-handed.
Yeah, no, my right hand is proud. But my left.
I just want to know why that is.
I don't know, mate. My left hand is about 45 degrees, and my right hand is 90 degrees, solid.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that fascinating?
My other hand.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I'd love to know an answer to that.
So would I now.
Yeah,
Ring fingers.
Yeah, great.
Ring. Yeah, okay.
Lovely. Thank you, James. Also, just one more thing. My son rang up during the lockdown, and when those kids were ringing up, it's some of the funniest radio I've ever heard.
Oh, it was lovely, wasn't it?
During the lockdown, that was brilliant.
It was. Oh, we'll give him my best.
Lovely. Thank you, James.
Nothing without. That was very special. And I still occasionally get, they come up now, and of course it's been 2 or 3 years. So someone who rang in as a sort of little squeaky-voiced schoolboy is now sort of hulking teenager. I came on your programme when you had all those kids on. It's nice to see you. 12:35 is the time. Andy's in High Wycombe. Andy, question or answer?
Oh, hi. It's a question,
Hello,
please.
Andy. Take
James.
your time, mate. Hello, how are you? You forgot my name then, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
It's easily done. I only say it about 40 times a programme. Go on, what have you got?
I was watching the procession yesterday, and I was in awe of the Scots Guard band and the Marines band. And I was assuming that they recruit these guys from musicians rather than just finding an expert trombone player among the squaddies.
Yes.
So the question was, do they have to go through basic training like all the other recruits, or do they just teach them how to march?
Wow.
And they just go out as ceremonial.
So the top-notch military musicians, do they fight in wars? Is what you're asking?
Yeah.
I know they go to war. That sometimes you'd have a piper in front of it, wouldn't you? Or they're there for morale reasons. But do they actually get their hands dirty, as it were?
Or are they just kept in the UK just for this sort of occasion?
It's a good question. I shall find out for you.
Because most musicians have chosen it as a career, haven't they? So I don't know if they'd want to.
And they are that good, aren't they? I mean, they are. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't be both. I mean, I don't know whether they'd get a gig in the kind of CBSO or something like that. They only play about 6 tunes. I'm not knocking them, don't get me wrong, but they only play about 6 tunes, don't they? The military ones.
Yeah. And they might choose to do it because you get regular income.
Also, they might not fancy fighting in a war.
Yeah, exactly.
But they quite like being a soldier because of the pension. So they pick up the trombone. I don't know. We shall find out. Do the armed forces who play the music at the profession also fight? Are they actual fighting forces? That's a great question, and you're right. The music is so uplifting. And you're about to say oddly uplifting, but it's literally designed. Never has music been more specifically designed to be uplifting than in the context of military marches and similar. Mark's in Barrow-in-Furness. Mark, it's going to be an answer. It always is. I wonder whether one day you might ask a question. It seems unlikely because you know everything.
I'll try to come up with a question. This is an answer, though, about grammatical gender. And we have actually mentioned this before.
Yes.
But we're talking here about the Indo-European languages of Europe and Western Asia.
Clearly.
Including English.
Yes.
And they have historically a masculine, feminine, neuter gender system.
Yes.
Which seems to go back to animist beliefs in the remote past where everything had a gender, a spirit in it with a gender and so on. But of course, those beliefs have long gone.
They have.
And the distinction has become semi-redundant. And although grammar changes slowly, it does eventually change. And in fact, I mean, this is just Indo-European. There are other language families with different systems. Chinese has nouns classified, but not by gender particularly.
Okay.
And languages like Finnish, that family, don't have it at all. They have nothing corresponding with this. They don't even have different words for he and she.
So it's just faded. So it's just coincidence. In some countries, it hasn't faded away completely, and in other countries, it has.
Well, it's faded away to a degree. I mean, in Dutch and Scandinavian, it's gone from masculine, feminine, neuter to common and neuter.
Okay.
And in the Romance languages like French, they've lost the neuter, and it's gone to masculine and feminine. But what seems to have made English change faster is that English was partly creolized in the Dark Ages when Norse was widely spoken in England. Very similar vocabulary, but rather different grammar. And so they had a compromised grammar, which is what happens in those circumstances. Starts off as a pidgin with no native speakers, but eventually has native speakers when it's called a creole. One of the features of creoles is that the grammar simplifies. And in fact, you never get grammatical gender in a creole. It's one of the first things that are lost. There are actually other factors in the case of English, but this seems to be the main factor. And it also happens in Afrikaans, where there was creolization and grammatical gender disappeared again in Afrikaans completely. So you only get little vestiges of it in English now, like you were saying about blonde.
Yes.
and with the pronouns like he and she, and they're almost always to do with actual sex or gender, not random assignments of nouns.
Yeah, I get it.
So this is something which happened, and it's happened quite quickly in English, and that's why Middle English already had lost grammatical gender, and it's much more like modern English than it's like Old English.
What a brilliant answer. And the French have deliberately kept it alive, haven't they? Because they still have a little sort of gang of scholars who decide if a new word comes up, like, I don't know, selfie, they'll decide whether it's masculine or feminine.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree it's controlled in France more heavily than we would allow it to be controlled here. Also Spanish, which we mentioned a while ago in this context. But it's there. I mean, it's a feature which is very slowly becoming reduced, and English went faster than most, mainly because of this creolization, we believe.
Qualifications, brilliant linguist.
Well, I don't know about brilliant. Professional linguist.
Professional.
Very happy to help out.
I know you are, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Seriously, I want to do more with you, Mark. I want to do a podcast or something like that, but I can't come up with a format. Let you come up with a format, and we'll make it happen. All right.
I will look into it.
Have a think.
Very happy to do something like that.
I could listen to you all day, and I know an awful lot of other people could as well. I'm getting messages every time you come on, so there must be something we can do. Mark, round of applause.
Thanks very much.
No,
Cheers.
thank you very much. He's already got a mystery hour ball game, so Paul is safe for the moment. Steve's in Ascot. Steve, question or answer?
It's a question, James, but after Mark's answer.
Yeah, go on then. What is it?
Right, simple one then. Simple one. When an aeroplane flies along, it wants to turn left or right.
Yeah.
It uses its wings, rudder, and things to turn, and it banks into the turn.
It does, doesn't it?
Left or right,
yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
Submarine has wings on the front, wings on the back, and a rudder. When it's underwater and it turns, does a submarine lean into the turn, or does it go around flat? Ha! Got you.
No, what do you mean you've got me? I don't pretend to know the answer to all the questions.
Oh, okay.
What does a boat do?
Well, a boat leans, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Well, a submarine is underwater.
No, well, thanks for that, Steve. Thanks, Steve.
Well, I mean,
thanks for the heads up there. Thanks for the heads up there. But there's a clue in the name, isn't there? Submarine.
Thank you. That's why I said submarine underwater, not on the surface. James.
No, I know you did. But I mean, it's going to be the same laws of aerodynamics. No, it isn't. It's aquadynamics.
Well, because it's totally surrounded by the water, isn't it? So surely, well, I don't know. Does it lean into it, or does it go flat?
I like this question. I like this question a lot. I think you can turn a boat around without leaning into it if you do it slowly, can't you? But
you can, but it's still only bouncing along on the surface of the.
No, I know. So, I do know the difference between a boat and a submarine, Steve. I might not be the sharpest knife in the drawer.
A submarine is called a boat, isn't it? A submarine is referred to as a boat.
Technically a boat, but we were talking about submersibles versus.
Yes.
I don't know, whatever. I'll find out for you. Does a submarine, when it's underwater, tilt into a turn?
Yes, please.
You're on. 0345 6060 973. If you can help Steve and now me. Do the military musicians, do they fight in wars? Why can some people lift their ring finger from their fist all the way up as if they were swearing, if it was the finger next to it, where other people can't? And I am incredibly both. My left hand, 45 degrees, my right hand, 90 degrees. I should probably stop doing it now in case the boss walks past the studio and thinks that I'm treating my staff with contempt. Gendered nouns we've done. Slap up, feed. I think I've done that, but Mark refused my answer. Car key, we've done. Longest queue for Paul, please. And origin of flea market. There's an open goal there, seriously. Terry's in Sissinghurst. Terry, question or answer?
Answer, please, James.
Carry on, Terry.
Well, bandsmen, all bandsmen are trained as first aiders. Primarily, their role in war is to go out and move casualties around. Traditionally, during the First World War, Second World War, they were called stretcher bearers. But now, in more modern times, they're trained in an advanced first aid. But their role in war is to support medical reception stations, medical field hospitals, and move casualties around, basically. That's their primary role in war now.
Primary, so they don't get stuck in, as it were, to the
No,
fighting.
they're not teeth on. No, just because you're in the band of the Royal Marines doesn't mean you go and drop your your instruments and suddenly run off and fight with the Marines.
I think the question was not thinking, what do you do? Just go back to base and swap your trumpet for a machine gun or something like that. I don't know. He thought that they're playing here, the pageantry, they're doing the music. But if there was actually a war and they were mobilised, would they be mobilised like fighting soldiers, or do they go there as...
Well, the thing is, James, every soldier, no matter what you are, your first role is as a soldier. So you're taught how to fire a weapon, you're taught basic infantry skills. But obviously, when it comes to deployment and being out on the battlefield, everybody has their part to play. And
I like
the
this. No, absolutely crucial. You wouldn't get far without medics. What are your qualifications, please?
18 years in the Royal Army Medical Corps.
And what instrument did you play?
I didn't play any instruments at all. I still can't, James. I can't play any instruments at all. But I can do karaoke.
That's no use. Give away your position to the enemy. Actually, so would any form of music. Right, round of applause for Terry. I like it. Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Cheers. I like this text as well. It's unsigned. I've just very nearly broken my ring finger trying to push it upright. Seriously, terms and conditions apply.
Mystery Hour on LBC with James O'Brien.
It's 12:14. Crikey, 12:49 already. We better crack on. Need some answers. The submarines tilt when they turn underwater. Why can some people raise their ring finger to 90 degrees while other people can't? If it doesn't work naturally, don't force it. You could hurt yourself. Origins of the phrase slap up feed. What was the longest queue? And origins of the phrase flea market. Bob's in Perth. Bob, question or answer?
It's an answer, James.
Carry on.
The previous caller gave a partial answer to whether musicians fight or not.
Yes.
In Scottish infantry regiments, now the Royal Regiment of Scotland, and the Scots Guards and the Royal Irish, the pipes and drums, as they're called, their primary role is fighting soldiers, musicians second. Excuse me.
Is it?
Yeah, and they're allocated a specialist machine gun platoon role, or they did do. So they are fighters first, go through all the basic training and the combat infantryman training, all that sort of stuff, and then they also take up the role as musicians.
I like this answer. So it's regimental specific then, the answer to the original question.
Correct. And yes, exactly.
So which regiment did the question reference? Can you remember who would have been playing the music yesterday?
Some of the English infantry battalions have sort of flute drums and stuff like that, and they're fighting soldiers, so it's across the whole spectrum, really.
So it completely varies. It completely varies.
Yeah, but there is a core of military music, and the people who, forgive me, but trumpets and brass and all that sort of stuff, they are musicians, but pipers and drummers and the flutists in the English battalions are all fighting soldiers first and musicians second.
Qualifications?
I served 34 years in the Black Watch.
34 years. Thank you for that.
Anyways, it was a breeze.
I don't think this is the most important honour you've received as a consequence of your military service. At least I hope it isn't, Bob.
Hey, listen, it's a great programme. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you, mate. Have a round of applause.
Happy to be part of it.
Lovely stuff. On we go. 12:51 is the time. Craig's in Newark. Craig, question or answer?
It's an answer.
Carry on.
Okay, then. So I hear you've got quite a lot of linguistics on the phone, and loads of people who are know too much about the English language. So I'm trying my luck here. Okay.
Go on.
So the definition of a queue is people who are waiting for something, right?
Yeah,
and
I guess so.
What we've got in 1989 was the Baltic Chain, and that was where we had over 2 million people, I believe it was over 2 million people, who were queuing up in a line from all the capitals, so from Vilnius, Riga, and Estonia. I can't remember the capital of Estonia for a second.
Vilnius.
But,
is it Vilnius?
No, that's Lithuania.
Okay.
Oh, it's... I've been there. Tallinn, that's it.
Of course it is.
Anyways, and they was queuing up, waiting for freedom, over 2 million people. And the freedom was obviously the collapse of the Soviet Union, wanting their independence.
And that was an actual queue?
Well, I'm calling it a queue because there was literally waiting that whole length of time. They call it the Baltic Chain because it was all holding hands, but because they were waiting for freedom, they were waiting for their independence, I'm calling it a queue.
Yeah, I mean... But now we've got...
Come on, the linguistics would agree with me on the call.
Would they, though? Because I think that's an exodus. Isn't it? It's not a queue.
Well,
it's an exit. They were trying to get out of something, not get into something. Oh, there's a philosophical question.
They're waiting.
I don't know if you can have, but then we'd probably have other points in history, like the Long March or, one of Farage's disgusting posters. They would then count as cues, wouldn't they, in the context of what you're saying?
Well, you've got 7 minutes left. My advice is to accept the answer.
Well, thank you for your advice. I'm not giving you a round of applause, though. Because I don't think it's a cue. What were they queuing up for?
For freedom.
I don't want your freedom. I don't want to play around. Carry on.
Brilliant.
Part-time love just brings me down, Craig. Paul's in Upminster. Paul, question or answer?
Answer, James.
Carry on, Paul.
On the submarines.
Oh, good man. Go on.
My boy was based at Faslane for 20 years. He was on the boats, nuclear subs, and on the hunter killers.
Wow. So you know of what you speak.
As well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So a sub has two, they call them planes, either side of the sub, at the front. And it's normally for depth, up and down, which is always a depth of the sub. A sub can kill, but it can turn quite quick, probably in battle station mode. It will turn over, like roll a bit, but not normally, no. Subs don't turn into a turn. They don't roll over into a turn.
That's fantastic. I had someone else tell me a plane leans into the turn, a boat leans out of the turn, but a submarine doesn't lean after the rudder alters the direction. Go on.
Yeah, I think planes have like airlines, they're called, or something. I don't know, to make them turn. They can bank into it.
Fantastic. And you've given us your qualifications before the answer, which is a very novel approach, but it earns you a round of applause nonetheless. Quite well on this. Thank you, Paul. David's in Cheam. David, question or answer?
It's an answer to the board game question.
What
radio-inspired games.
Well, that wasn't a question. That was just a bit of banter.
Well, they put me on.
Honestly,
I thought you said, as everybody know, of another radio programme, another
yeah, but I
game
can't ask questions on Mystery. If I start asking questions on Mystery, it's just like the other 14 hours of the week, isn't it? It's just another phone-in. Go on, then. You're here now.
Okay, I believe it was in the 1980s. There was a radio programme called Steve Allen in the Afternoon.
Steve Allen in the Afternoon?
No, Steve Wright in the Afternoon.
Steve Wright, you're still on.
Steve Wright in the Afternoon.
Yes.
It was, and it was humorous and musical and whatnot. And my daughter was very keen to have this board game that came out called Steve Wright's Totally Stupid Game.
It's a bit like mine.
And we played it twice, and it was so good. I safely stored it right at the back of my garden shed, and it's laid in state there.
That Steve listens to the show. He doesn't want to hear. He doesn't want to hear that. That's not fair. Oh, I love it. All right, Steve Wright's Totally Stupid board game.
Yeah, I just thought you might like it.
I love it. I think DLT had one as well back in the day, but only Mystery Hour seems to have survived. Round of applause for David.
Okay,
it's a collector's item now, David. 12:56 is the time. Robert's in Fulham. Robert, question or answer?
Excuse inquiry, I'm afraid, James.
Oh,
You're
come on. What on? What now?
Well, it's more of a clarification.
Go on,
this is the car key and being used to amplify the signal to unlock your car.
Yes.
So you said it was the structure of the skull.
Yeah.
That's partially correct, but it's what's inside the skull because it's whatever it is. It's mainly water.
Yes.
And because you put the key to the side of your brain, the frequency of the water matches the frequency of the signal, which extends the range of the RF signal, which is electromagnetic radiation, and basically unlocks your car.
Blimey.
So so your brain is being used as an antenna.
My brain is like an antenna. Round of applause. Well, qualifications? Wait.
Just a quick one. The most important thing, if you're ever wearing green trousers, you just walk up to your car and you rub the trouser against the car and it unlocks the car because you've got khaki trousers.
How dare you? How dare you come on this programme?
I had to shoehorn it in.
Oh, my days. Not only is that absolutely awful, but I've never heard it before. Qualifications.
Dad jokes are ours.
Dad jokes, daddy jokes.
Excuse for a dad joke.
Always. No, you need no excuse for a dad joke. Except possibly there being some children around, but who are we to quibble? What are your qualifications for the substantive
general
part?
knowledge. It was on a Brian Cox.
That's good. Brian Cox trumps Jeremy Clarkson any day of the week, doesn't he? I don't think there's any doubt about that. Round of applause for Robert and his khaki trousers. I really like dad jokes. Unfortunately, I've now reached a stage in life where my children don't. We're still delightfully at the stage where they enjoy not liking them, but I know it's not going to last long. So there's 3 stages of dad joke, I reckon. There's the bit where the kids love them and think that you're some sort of linguistic genius stroke comedian. And then there's the bit where the groan is affectionate and indulgent. And then there's the bit where I'm approaching now with one of them, and I think the other one will probably not be far behind, where there's no pleasure at all for anybody in it except Dad, and that pleasure will be short-lived. The board game, it's got to be Paul, hasn't it, for the board game? It's his birthday. And it was actually a brilliant question, and he didn't really get an answer. We still don't know what the longest queue in the world is. OMG, James, I'm dying. He was hilarious. What a deadpan. Oh, no, now we want a steward's inquiry on whether or not he should get the board game.
Isn't it the one for the Great Wall of China?
What was that?
The queue.
To get in?
To get in, to get on, to walk along. That must be pretty long.
Longer than this one here? Longer than...
Don't know.
I don't know either. You're not getting a board game for that, Sheila Fogarty. I'm giving it to Paul, because you can't win a board game for jokes, otherwise everyone will ring in with a rubbish joke every week, and I'll have no role left on this programme. Here's Sheila 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 on this.
Bầu trời chiều không màu nắng ấm, thầm thầm buồn vọng nhớ về đường. Phương trời xa ai nào hay biết, giang thu nắng